Hey, everybody, welcome back to the I Play 2 podcast. I'm your host, Rob Adler. This week, softball player Alexa Langeliers joins the show. In 2018, as a freshman for Keller High School in Texas, she hit over 500, earning the Dallas-Fort Worth Newcomer of the Year. In 2022 at Louisiana, she led the team in home runs and was a second-team All-Sun Belt Conference. After transferring to Texas Tech, Alexa hit over 300 as a senior, earning second-team All-Big 12 honors, and played in the Women's College World Series. Her brother, Shea Langeliers, is a catcher for the Athletics who has hit 20-plus homers in 3 consecutive seasons and was the August 2025 American League Player of the Month. Alexa, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I hear you were in Boston over the summer. How was it?
It was a great experience. I really enjoyed my time there. There's a lot of history in Boston, and it was really cool to learn about that part of the country.
As a history person, what was something you really enjoyed seeing in Boston?
This may not be a popular opinion, but I actually really enjoyed the Paul Revere House. Granted, it's not the exact same as it was, but it's pretty close. Just walking in through it, they have people who describe the room, kind of like the setup of the house, what the purpose of the room was for. And then, like, towards the end, they'll give an entire backstory about Paul. He had 11 kids. 5 or 6 of them lived in this little tiny house at a time. So there was 7 to 8 people living in that house at one time, which was really fascinating to learn how they utilize space. And then I definitely recommend doing the Freedom Trail if you're into history. It takes you through like all the historical sites that are still in the city, which is really cool.
What was your favorite part of the Freedom Trail?
Probably the Paul Revere House. It's the last stop on the Freedom Trail. It's in like the Italian portion of the city, which is really cool. The food in Boston's amazing. I would definitely recommend going to Boston just for the food. The Italian and the seafood is amazing.
As a food fan, you're speaking my language. What places would you recommend for anybody to go to when they go to Boston?
If you can get into Capri, I would definitely recommend that. It's kind of like an Italian steakhouse. It's relatively new, but it's really good. I also really liked Contessa. That's an Italian restaurant, and it's amazing. Tuscan's pretty good as well. That's also an Italian restaurant. And then seafood, Ocean Prime is pretty good. That's in Seaport. And then I would also recommend going to like a local Irish pub. Those are really good down there as well. You're really not going to go wrong with food in Boston, but those would be the places that I would recommend.
So, what brought you to Boston from Lubbock?
I had an internship at a pharmaceutical company up in Boston in the marketing department for the neurology division of the company.
What intrigued you about the opportunity with that internship as opposed to other opportunities you might have had?
I've always been really interested in the healthcare system. Before I transferred, I was actually a biology major, but when I transferred, I lost all of my biology credits. So I switched into business, and growing up, my dad was a sales rep for a pharmaceutical company. So I kind of wanted to get into what he did, but more on the company side of it instead of being super face to face with doctors, more of putting the company and like the drug that we're selling out and kind of finding like the best positioning for the drug is what I was interested in. So I kind of got to see like the behind the scenes of that while I was there, and it was really cool. You still work with doctors and you make TikTok videos. You can kind of do like a more conversational video as well, and it was a really great experience.
How did your initial interest in wanting to do something with the healthcare system begin?
I'm not really sure. I've always had a passion for helping people and animals. Actually, growing up, I wanted to be a veterinarian, but then I decided that I couldn't deal with pets dying. So I switched out of that. But I've always been really interested in just helping people. I thought about being a nurse and going back to school for nursing school, but I had a really great time being on the commercial side of things.
You mentioned your love of pets. Do you currently have one?
So we have a silver lab named Maverick. He is a little over 3 years old, and then we have a cat, I think that's 14, something like that. And then we've had dogs my entire life. We had two rescues from a shelter growing up, and then we rescued a golden retriever, I think my freshman year of high school. She was 9 when we adopted her, but grew up loving animals.
I grew up with dogs as well. My mom bred whippets, and so there are always whippets in the house. And nothing like dropping a piece of food on the floor and then seeing if you can get it before the dog does.
Oh, yeah. It's always fun dealing with that one, especially when you drop something that they definitely should not have.
Yep, been there with chocolate.
Yep, and grapes. Always a good time wrestling it away from them.
You're like, I don't really want to be doing this, but I have to.
It's like, I'm doing this to help you. If you have that, it's not going to end well for you. And they just don't realize that. They're just like, food, something dropped. This is my domain.
So, taking a bit of a step back here and getting a little bit in your softball background, how did your initial interest in softball start?
So my brother is like 5.5 years older than I am. And so when I began to show interest in like wanting to do sports, my brother had already been playing baseball. And growing up, I wanted to be like Shea. So I did the female version of the sport in softball. But I played basketball and volleyball too until high school. So shout out Shea for my interest in softball.
Softball has grown in popularity, I would say, particularly since COVID. But growing up, softball probably wasn't as prevalent as it is now. How hard was it for you to get opportunities and possibly play on a travel team?
I think I was really blessed to have grown up in Texas where softball was a bit bigger than in other states. But even growing up, we had like two really well known organizations in Texas. So I played for Glory Shelton initially. And then it's been really fun to see like the growth of the sport. It definitely was not easy growing up finding like a good travel team that would get you the exposure that you were looking for.
When was the first time you realized that you could make softball into more than something that maybe you just play in the summer?
Obviously, the rule change happened, I think, my freshman year of high school. So my class was the most affected by it. I was a late commit. I didn't commit until after the rule change. But I think I realized that I could do it after high school was probably when I was 11. I think that's when I first got an offer. But that was, I guess, like the setting point of, oh wow, I could like actually do this. But obviously it's different today. With the rule change, you can't really know anything until your junior year.
Would you mind elaborating a little bit more about the rule change for listeners who might not be as familiar with what you're talking about?
So they passed a rule where coaches were not allowed to contact you until September 1st of your junior year of high school. And that happened because there was a sixth grader that committed to Florida. I don't think it's very common in men's sports, and I'm not entirely certain if it's only softball that has this rule, but I think it's actually better for the sport in general because there's a big difference between a 12-year-old and a 16 or 17-year-old.
In terms of how the rule affected you, did that impact your recruiting in any way?
Yes and no. I would say that it was a bit strange because you kind of already knew what schools were interested in you before the rule change happened. So you kind of had like an idea of what schools to keep in contact with. But at the same time, it was difficult if like you initially were interested in a school and then you were, wait, I actually don't really like that school. I want to go to this school, but then you can talk to a coach about it or like even get feedback from the coaches if they were interested in you. So you would spend money to go to these camps and maybe the coach didn't even like you. So I think that was probably the biggest hurdle. But I mean, I also only had to wait 2 years for the rule to change. But I think the toughest thing for my class was the fact that most of the class had already committed. So if you were a late commit, a lot of schools didn't have room to take you.
In terms of the recruiting process, because you originally went to Louisiana, what was it like for you?
Recruiting processes are going to be different for everyone. I think I had a relatively simple recruiting process. I mean, September 1st hit and a bunch of schools reached out, and you kind of got to pick the schools that you wanted to actually go visit. And I actually went to UL with my best friend, so that was really fun. And then I played with a bunch of the girls on the travel team that also went to Louisiana. I think we had 7 girls on our team that went. So I kind of knew going in what to expect. And I knew I wasn't like alone in how the recruitment went because me and Elia were both late recruits. So we shared that experience a little bit. But recruitment will definitely open your eyes to what coaches are really like, in my opinion. Because if you do go on a visit to a school, you can ask the girls that are currently there what playing for the coach is like, and most of them are going to be straight up with you.
Your brother went through the recruiting process as well. What was something that you learned from his process that you were able to use for your own?
Something that I learned from Shea was he had gotten drafted out of high school, but he chose to go to college. So his main thing with college was he going to play a lot, and was the school good academically? And although when I was being recruited, professional softball wasn't a huge thing yet, it made me sit back and emphasize, is this like a good school to get a degree from or not?
Since you just mentioned the importance of getting a degree, how much was academic stressed in your household growing up?
I would say it was very stressed, but at the same time, my parents were always just do your best because sometimes school doesn't come easy to people. But I would definitely say academics was a huge part of our household. So, like, as long as our parents knew that we were doing our best, it was never really an issue. But, like, if we started slacking off or something, then we would have an intervention to get us back on the right track.
What was your favorite subject or subjects in school?
Definitely say math, science, and history. I love my numbers.
I can't say I'm much of a numbers person, but history is something I enjoy. What's a favorite part of history that you like going down a rabbit hole in?
I love going down rabbit holes for ancient Greece and ancient Rome. And then I've recently gone down rabbit holes of American history that I was a bit ignorant on. I think my favorite thing that I learned in school, history wise, was the Trail of Tears and like learning about just how destructive we were when we came over. And then I like to relearn stuff about the revolution from Great Britain. It's a boost of patriotism if you're looking for it.
You mentioned ancient Greece and ancient Rome. What intrigues you about each?
I really just like how they were interdependent, but like they also were rivals at the same time. I think that was kind of towards the end. I'm gonna have to go down another rabbit hole there. But I really just like learning about the Greek mythology and like the Roman mythology aspects of it. It's interesting to see like kind of how religion has changed and kind of how these major civilizations were pagan and now the main religion that you see is Christianity. It's interesting to see the change there for sure.
In terms of the Greek and Roman gods and goddesses, are there any ones you relate to more than others?
I would definitely say my favorite is Poseidon and Neptune. If you're into Percy Jackson, they illustrate it as being the same god. Like one was Greek and one was Roman. But I do like Athena. But I'm not a huge fan of Zeus, actually.
How do you feel about Hera?
I like her. She's not my favorite, but she's interesting to learn about.
Have you had a chance to go to either Greece or Italy to further explore your love of mythology?
No, I've been asking my dad for like the last 6 years to let me go, and he's told me no every time. And my brother's gone like 6 times and has not invited me, and it's very rude of him. But when they went, they didn't go to the mythology aspect of things. They were sightseeing and all of that. I think they went to the Colosseum where the gladiators fought, but I think that was like the extent of their historical trip.
Wait, they left you behind? That doesn't seem fair.
Right? I have FOMO from his trips to Europe, but kind of in high school, I understood it, and I guess in college, because I did play softball, so it would have been hard for me to take off for 2.5 weeks to go travel in Europe. But he could have waited until December when I was home for a month, and he did not. He went in November.
December's starting to train though for baseball, so got to get it done while you can.
That doesn't mean I can't be upset that he went without me, but I'm actually hoping that I can get in on the Europe trip this year.
Where's the Europe trip this year going to be? Has that been decided yet?
I don't think so. I think they were talking about going back to Greece, but I think they might be going to France as well. But I think that was part of the plan because they like to go watch some of the soccer or football games over there.
Are you a soccer fan as well?
I am not the most informed about soccer, but I liked watching Reagan play. Reagan is Shea's wife, and she played soccer at Baylor. So I liked watching her play.
Between you and your brother, who's the more competitive person?
I want to say me, but I'm pretty sure it's Shea. But I mean, growing up, we were always competing for something. But I think nowadays it's probably Shea. I've cooled out a little bit.
Does it still get heated perhaps when you play a board or a card game?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of accusations of cheating being thrown around. Not sure if it's true, but it definitely does get thrown around. But board games, card games, poker, we'll play spike ball in the backyard. We get at each other's throats a couple times doing that stuff.
Spike ball, that's something I haven't heard about in a while. For people who might not be familiar, kind of tell them what that's about. That's a fun thing to do.
I've always considered spike ball as like a mini version of volleyball, but basically you have this little inflatable rubber ball, and then you have like a trampoline. It's not like an actual trampoline, but it's got a net, and you'll hit the ball into the net, and typically play with 4 people. So it's like teams of 2, and so you get 3 hits before you have to hit it into the net. And basically, if it hits the ground after you hit it into the net, you get a point. But if it hits the ground after the other team hits it into the net, they get a point. It can get pretty intense. I would definitely recommend not playing on a hard surface.
I could see that being a problem.
Oh, yeah. Probably not the best hobby to do if you're super competitive. We typically play it on grass or in sand. We played it in sand in college, but definitely something that's a little bit more forgiving if you leave your feet.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's the better spike ball player, you or your brother?
My brother is definitely the better spike ball player. He's able to hit it so hard into the net, you have no shot of getting to where the ball is going. If you want to win, you want Shea on your team, regardless of what it is. He's pretty good at bowling. He's good at pool. He's good at golf. Shea's a winner. He'll do whatever he has to try and win.
It sounds like you're pretty close with Shea. So, growing up away from sports, what's a favorite memory you have with him?
We used to have a boat growing up, probably just being out on the lake and tubing and wakeboarding with him is probably one of my favorites. And then I got a little bit older and we started playing video games together. That was always a fun event with him. I'm going to go bother him to play video games with me now.
When you turn on a video game, what's the game that you're turning on?
Probably Call of Duty. We played Call of Duty Zombies a lot growing up. And then Fortnite got popular and he got really into Fortnite. I was not the best at Fortnite. I'm not very good at building. My main job when we played Fortnite was to just go around and revive people.
Have you ever been to any of the retro arcades that are around DFW?
I'm not sure if it's a retro arcade, but there was one off of Keller Hicks growing up. It was called Tornado Terry's. We would all go there. Me and my dad used to spend literally the whole day there. Like we would be there as soon as it opened and we wouldn't leave until it closed. And we'd do that 3 or 4 times a week during the summer. It was so much fun.
I miss the old arcade and playing games and stuff like that. For me, it was always pole position. What was your game to play in Tornado Terry's?
Probably Pac-Man or Guitar Hero. Those are probably my two go-tos.
Somewhere I still have my Pac-Man on the Atari 400. The graphics weren't quite as good then.
My dad got an arcade machine and it had, I don't even know, like 40 or 50 games on it. And we would just go in there and play Pac-Man together. It was a lot of fun.
Shoot, now I want to come over and play the game.
I'm not sure we still have it, to be quite honest. I think we do. I think it's just in a storage unit. We're in the process of moving.
Seems to be a little bit of a theme with you, moving over the last, I would say, 2 years. You've done it quite a bit.
I think since going to college, I've moved at least once every year. This past year has been the busiest. I think I've moved 3 times.
Speaking of moving, what led you to go to Lubbock from Louisiana?
I had really liked tech during my recruiting process. I loved the campus and like the culture there. The coaching staff at the time wasn't my favorite, but that kind of fell off. And then I went to Louisiana. And then for my senior year, our head coach took the head coach job at Tech. And so then I kind of just followed him up to Tech. That's really about it.
For folks that haven't been to Lubbock, what's Lubbock like as a city?
Obviously, it's going to depend on your taste. I personally love Lubbock. It offers a lot of openness, but at the same time, like you're really close to everything still. And it's got a good mix of the traditional and modern aspects of a college. It's got like the traditional buildings from like earlier when the college was first being built, but like you will go inside and it's a lot of modern interior. There's a lot of technology being utilized, and they've updated it with how they want tech to be viewed. But we're in the South, it's going to be Southern hospitality, very patriotic. It's kind of got like a small town feel to it a little bit, just with how welcoming everybody is and how people will go out of their way to help you with stuff. Lubbock is one of my favorite places to be at.
What was the vibe like as you guys were headed to the College World Series?
I think it was a bit of shock and excitement. I think we kind of surprised ourselves with how far we actually made it. We knew we could, and we just didn't know if we execute it. And then obviously it's always exciting to make it to the biggest stage in your sport. And it was a really cool experience. Got to meet a lot of different people, and getting to play the game that you love in front of so many people is an experience that I wish everybody could have.
Out of all the people you got a chance to meet at the Women's College World Series, who was a favorite that you were happy that you had the chance to do so?
I really loved talking with Holly Rowe. She's amazing. She's a great person. She's got a wicked sense of humor. And then I also really like Jessica Mendoza. She was a sweetheart. The media teams that they had were also really great, super helpful, and very understanding and like willing to explain how to do something.
Been a long time since I've talked to Holly Rowe, but she is so nice.
She really, really is. The coolest part for me was she does both. So like it was cool to know that like she had experience in like the world that my brother lives in and get crossed over into my world. She's very versatile and she's very good at what she does.
I know it didn't turn out the way you would have hoped, but what was something you learned from that final?
Probably why perseverance is important. I always heard you need to have perseverance growing up, but I guess it never fully clicked until that moment because at the end of season, you're tired. Granted, we were all super excited to be there, but it was a very long season. Everybody's kind of running on fumes, but just being in that spot was incredible. My main takeaway from that was we were right there, but maybe a couple things go different and we win. But at the end of the day, softball is a game where you have to step up every day and play your best because wins aren't guaranteed. You could go into a game and be like the favorite, but if you don't show up and play, you can get beat.
How much of a bond, regardless of the outcome, was created between all of the teammates with the Red Raiders?
It was like a family. I still keep in contact with everybody on that team. I'm actually planning on heading up to Lubbock soon and going and catching a couple of the scrimmages. But you go through so much together and you always have each other's backs, regardless of if it's on the field or off the field. It's a bond that's not easy to break if you could ever break it.
Throughout the season, regardless of whether on the field or off the field, what's a lasting moment or image that you'll always remember?
On the field was probably the first game of the World Series. That was a game I really soaked in and kind of was, wow, like I'm actually here. Another moment that was on the field was my last game because I knew it was my last game, and that's an experience a lot of people don't get of going into a game and knowing it's the last one that you're ever going to play at that level. And then off the field is probably dinners at Coach Glasgow's house. Always fun being at his place. There's a lot to do. He lives on 10 acres of land. It's probably my favorite time because that's really when you get to know people on the team. He'll host like a pre-season dinner. So like when you first get on campus, one of the first things that you do is you'll have a dinner at Glasgow's house. And that's really when you kind of get to know everyone. And then Halloween is always fun. We dress up for it. I think Halloween is one of Glasgow's favorite holidays, if not his favorite. I actually dressed up as Glasgow for my last year. He died laughing when he saw me.
That's a fantastic costume with Halloween just recently passed. What's your favorite part about the holiday?
Getting to dress up and like hang out with friends. Growing up, my favorite aspect was always the candy, but I really just enjoy some quality time with people I really care about and getting to do something fun with them.
What was your favorite costume?
Probably when I dressed up as a Power Ranger. I was the pink Power Ranger. That was fun.
When it comes to the candy, are you a crackle person, special dark, something else?
I really like Kit Kats or anything that has caramel in it, except for Twix. I'm not a huge fan of Twix. It's always a safe bet with Kit Kats or Skittles.
You got to try the Kit Kats that come from Europe that are in the red package and not the orange. They're even better.
Oh gosh. Now I definitely need to go to Europe.
Looking ahead a little bit, is pro softball on the horizon for you?
At this point in time, no. I think if I came back into the sport, it would be in coaching. But who knows? I might change my mind in a couple months. But at this point in time, I am not looking to play professionally.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Hopefully, the VP of marketing somewhere or a nurse. I'm not sure. Coaching's not out of the question there either. But hopefully, I have a husband and kids. Yeah, that's probably where I'd hope to be in 10 years.
Are you currently seeing anyone to get the husband part of that taken care of?
Yes, I do have a boyfriend. He actually lives in Rhode Island, which is a bit of a tough situation. Met him when I was in Boston, and now I'm 1,700 miles away. But I think it'll be worth it.
And with social media now, whether you have Snapchat or Facebook Messenger, you can at least see somebody where 30 years ago that wasn't always the case.
Definitely, I think long distance relationships are significantly easier nowadays than they were back then. I'm not sure how they ever did long distance back then.
Have you had the opportunity to go to Newport, Providence, or Block Island, any place like that in Rhode Island?
He lives in North Providence, so I would take the train into Providence, and then I've gone to the beach in Newport, which was really fun. Haven't been to Block Island though. I do want to go. I've heard really good things about it, but I was not able to go this summer.
Block Island's a nice place, and the other thing I would recommend is if you had a chance to go to Brown University, that's a nice campus.
We played Brown in our regional this past year, but I'll definitely have to take a gander over there.
We didn't talk a lot about your time in Louisiana. Do you want to talk any more about that?
I mean, Louisiana was hectic. I didn't have the greatest experience in Louisiana. I struggled with some mental health problems being there. It was really just a dark part of my life, I would say. Like, I loved the softball aspect of it, but like being in Louisiana was not good for me.
With the mental health side of things, what advice do you have for fellow athletes, be it male or female, to address the situation before it gets really bad?
Talk to anybody. It doesn't matter if it's a friend, a coach, a mental health professional. As long as you're talking about it, it gets easier because now you're sharing that burden with somebody else and it makes the weight that you're feeling less. I had a great support system in Louisiana, which significantly helped with my experience there. But don't be afraid to talk about how you're feeling. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think it's better nowadays, like the stigma around asking for help with mental health is definitely a lot better than it used to be. But obviously, it's still a problem today. But just know that there's people that genuinely care about you and want to see you succeed. And if you're in a dark place, they want to help you get out of it.
What was the aha moment for you that helped you get out of that place?
This is going to sound crude, but this kind of approach has always helped me with my problems. Everything that I'm experiencing right now is such a small moment in time that maybe 5 years from now, I'm going to look back on it and be like, that wasn't even that big of a deal. That approach is not going to work for everyone. What I experienced is going to be vastly different compared to other people that are struggling with mental health. But I was just like, this moment in time is just a moment, and the next moment is going to be better, and telling myself that it's not going to last.
I agree with that. I think perspective is really key in understanding any sort of problem, whether we're talking mental health, physical, something with work.
Absolutely.
One other thing on mental health, in terms of just being able to come to terms with what's going on and talking about it, what do you think people have to do to get there?
I think the main thing in regards to mental health is to talk about it. Just know that you're not alone. In my experience, when you start talking about things, it puts it out in the open, and you're also getting perspectives from other people that can give you a new perspective on what you're experiencing. But I think a large portion of fighting mental health is just being able to speak about it. Because once you go quiet, that's when a lot of people lose that battle, is when they stop talking about it.
I think that's an important thing for a lot of people to understand because in a moment of trial or trauma, I think people can forget that.
When you're going through it, it can feel like the whole world is against you, like nothing's going right. And it feels very, very lonely. And I think the key point in mental health is just being able to talk to somebody about how you're feeling. I would really just recommend finding someone, multiple people, just to talk to about what you're going through, kind of how you're looking at the situation. You can always get an outside opinion and perspective, and like people are going to want you to be here. They're going to want to help you get out of that dark place. And most people want to see the people surrounding them succeed. So I think don't be quiet. Keep talking about it and keep talking about it and keep talking about it. Because one day it's going to click and you're going to look back and be glad that you talked about it.
What's your biggest takeaway been post softball?
Take every experience that you have and cherish it. Moments don't last forever. I think that's been my biggest takeaway post softball. You don't realize how much you'll miss it until it's gone.
Alexa, I want to thank you so much for coming on the I Played 2 podcast today, talking about your time in softball, playing in the College World Series, your love of history. Take care and continued success wherever your career takes you. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. I've had a lot of fun doing this.